All right. So what is a Young Birders Club? A Young Birders Club is evidently a club for young birders and people that are attempting to get into birding firsthand. And what we do is we go out, try and educate some young people about what birding is all about, try to get them into community science, and overall attempt to have them garner a better understanding of what a Young Birders Club and what birding here in Florida is all about. So we have a sponsoring organization. That'd be our chapters here in Orange County, and I believe in St. Augustine and Duval, as well as Pinellas, where Mr. Jim McGinity is. He founded the club in 2021 and reached out to Miss Kathy Rigling to promote further chapters. But we offer regular birding field trips and programs all around Central Florida and all around areas where everyone can gather for a bit and do some birding. We provide some mentoring from professionals in the field. So we have older and adult sponsors come out to show around the young kids and overall have them get a better understanding of what that's going to be like. We are training some young people to become field trip leaders themselves, such as I and Charles and Mr. Blair over in St. Augustine. And our goal is to have an annual conference to recruit some more young birders from around the state and bring some more people together in that effort. So the beginning of the Florida Young Birders Club, it was founded in 2021 by Mr. Jim McGinity. We have 3 chapters right now from Tampa, Orange County, and St. John's. And it is sponsored by the Florida Ornithological Society, Clearwater Audubon, and Vortex Optics. We are attempting to garner some more sponsors so we can expand the club a little bit more. And some common goals of the club for right now is that we want to create a community of young birders throughout the state. We want to foster an interest in natural history and encourage young people to spend some more time outside. So we want to have some young people get some more time outside, and we want them to gain some more knowledge on the topics of birding and natural history. We want to hopefully turn that into a gateway for careers in wildlife and conservation, research, ecology, biology, all of that. We want to hopefully foster into, a passion that will keep going into their adult lives, so we can hopefully keep that chain of young birders going for as long as we can. And we want to connect the young birders with the already existing adult mentors to share their time, knowledge, and transportation. So young people will not always have the opportunity to get out all the time due to constraints with transportation and time, because young people have school and they can't not yet drive. So adult mentors will sometimes lend their transportation and cars to get out into the field and offer those sort of opportunities for people that can't get out all the time. And of course, we want to have fun. So some of the activities that we offer is we want to go into birding field trips to a variety of birding hotspots. So we will go all around the state to different spots that we know the birds are going to be, and we're going to get them into those spots to do some birding. We have the monthly J-Chat programs, which is similar to the bird chat programs that are offered right now, that we're currently being a part of, fortunately. We offer those with guest speakers that have their own knowledge and their own experience to share with the young birders. We have community service and science projects, outreach activities to expand the knowledge and the fame of the club. And here is a shorebird outing from Fort DeSoto County Park, where you'll use the spotting scope to get those shorebirds, such as the snowy plovers and the oyster catchers and all those good specialty birds that are in the Fort DeSoto and Pinellas area. We offer the community service and science projects like this American Kestrel Nest Box project that was propped up here by some of the young birders. These were constructed by a local group, and these shorebird, sorry about that, shorebird stewarding by Mr. Blair and the Wood Duck Nest project. So what I find so interesting about these community service projects is that not only does it get some experience under the belts of these young people very early on, is that it allows them to be involved in something more serious than just going out and getting your eyes on some birds. So you're really helping to make a difference, making a difference outright. And here's some pictures from an outing at Hammock Park where the kids got to band some birds. And I believe here, I'm not sure what bird that is, but this young lady's holding a parula. She got to release later on. And here is, I believe that's a catbird that Mr. McGinity's holding there with that young man. So some of our accomplishments thus far is that we created a logo for the club with designs by young birders on the advisory panel that we host monthly, or try to host monthly. So what we wanted to do is that we wanted to have the logo feel like it was connected to some of the young birders and what was reflected by their ideas. So we had some of our young birders, including myself and Mr. Charles Law, draft up and sketch some logo ideas for the logo so that it can further be worked on into a final and finished design. What we did was that we started up a monthly JChat program series where we contacted some local and prominent figures of birding and science from across the state to speak on their own experience and their own personal accounts of birding and science and their own specialty type work that they've been doing and share their knowledge with the young birders. We started an FYBC YouTube channel to host the recorded programs. So what we did was that we would record the programs that we hosted with JChat over Zoom. And once it was done, we would upload the JChats to the YouTube channel so that you can go back and watch them if you, for example, didn't make the chat on the night that it was hosted, or if you just want to go back and watch, do some review, take some notes, all that. We also created our own business cards and flyers on the we created our own business cards and flyers with the Young Birders Club logo, some of the information that is offered here, and in general, yeah, we put the QR code and all of our social media stuff here, as well as photos and rack cards from what we wanted to do and what was offered from the club. And here is the logo that we came up with that was helped out from with a lovely graphic designer that we worked with that offered to do it completely for free to help out the efforts of the Young Birders Club. And if you'll notice closely, we took some inspiration from an artist that was based in Florida and would hide the shape of the Florida logo. The shape of the Florida state in some of his artwork. So we had our graphic designer insert the shape of the Florida state inside of the markings on the scrub jay, which I thought was pretty interesting. And here's our JChat program PR and the business card that we currently have drafted up for handing out at each one of our events and each one of our outreach programs. And Mr. Charles and I, this was the early rough drafting of the logo that we came up with. So what we did was that we sat in our meetings and we came up with ideas from things that we would want to see out of a Young Birders logo. So this was my sketch originally. And you can see the saw palmettos in the background and the scrub jay combined with the circular logo. Charles put this, he made this sketch inside of a note-taking app, which is pretty remarkable. He created this Florida State logo with the scrub jay nest along with it. So we were all rough drafting ideas, and here are some of the other versions that he made. And we ended up with this as our concluding piece. And we've utilized that in our programs and our outreach events and everything that represents the Young Birders Club since. And onto our J chats. So our J chats are held via Zoom one Saturday each month. We try to get one guest speaker per month to, come out and have a talk with us and answer any questions that the young birders will have, as well as give a presentation on what the birding experience is going to be about. So some topics we featured include black rails from Heather Levy, pelagic birding, avian tracking technology, and swallow-tailed kites. Swallow-tailed kites especially, we've had guest speakers Adam and Gina Kent on for their own each individual programs, and we've had a lot of curiosity from our young birders regarding that because of we have a question segment at each end of our programs, so they can get their opinions in and their questions in to further, harbor their knowledge on the subject if the questions weren't answered during the presentation itself. And we are all done. We wrapped up with our J chats for the year. So if next year you would like to be a guest speaker on our program, you can always send your inquiry to this email if you'd like to be a speaker and share your knowledge with the young birders that are interested in the program that you have to offer. So here's Charles at his tabling event at Circle B Bar Reserve. He has a spotting scope for the birding, and he offered some insight into what the Young Birders Club is going to be all about. He sat here pretty much all day, and he did some miraculous work getting outreach done for the young birders and, getting the word out there that the Young Birders Club was a thing and that you can participate in it. And over here, you have the youth-led bird walks that I'm pretty sure was from the same trip. And that means that young people can get their foot in the door early by sharing their knowledge with adult and other child participants about their knowledge of birding and their experiences out here, and they can be the ones to lead and get their knowledge on, which I think is a pretty cool opportunity. So here's a picture of yours truly from when I still had hair. From the Orlando wetlands outing we had, I believe it was November last year. And some highlights from the trip were some very showy American bitterns. We had some cool views of red-shouldered hawks, and we had a very rare bird from that outing. I believe towards the end, it was a Cassin's kingbird, which I believe was only the second county record for Orange County at that time. So that was a really, really cool sight to see. I believe I spotted it first, and then Mr. Blair was the one to make an ID on it. And then Ethan Launderville got some photos of it, and he was like, "Oh, that must be a Cassin's because of the white whiskers." And I was like, that's kind of reaching, because I thought it was a Western kingbird at first, but then we really got looks at it. We posted it on the Florida Rarities and Migrations Facebook page, and we got some positive confirmation that it was in fact a Cassin's kingbird. So that was a really, really cool sight to see at that park, especially. So some future goals from the FYBC is that we want to increase the number of members. We want to overall have some more kids enrolled in this sort of thing. We want to have at least one or two more chapters from a few more counties in the next few years. So we want to have more people coming out in general to see the young birders and the birds. We want to continue to have joint and biannual field trips. So what we'll do is that we'll, so each chapter has their own meetings with their kids, like once or twice a month. But sometimes what we'll do, at least twice a year we want to do, is that we want to get all of the chapters together to do one joint field trip at a specific spot. So our most recent trip, I believe, was the trip at Sweetwater Wetlands Park in Gainesville. So we had a lot of people come out for that. And we had a pretty big group from Orange County and Pinellas County, as well as St. John's. We all had those people come out and do some birding with us. We want to organize an annual meeting or conference to go over the ideas of what kids will have in mind for the club, starting at least in 2024. So a big emphasis on what we want to do with the club is that we want to have input from the kids themselves, rather than having the adults take over the entire thing and let their ideas take priority over what kids would want out of a Young Birders Club themselves. And we want to continue and encourage the development of birding skills and offer leadership opportunities. So I myself, I am a field trip leader in training for the Young Birders Club. I've led a few field trips here and there for the young birders, and I've led them around and shown them the ropes of what it's like to be a field trip leader themselves and see what it was like to maybe have some more opportunities as far as leadership and birding. And of course, one of the future goals of the FYBC, one of the present goals, I should say, is to have fun. How can you help get the word out there for the Young Birders Club? We have an Instagram and a Facebook page that we post weekly posts on. We try to make it weekly. Charles has this excellent series that he's doing on the bird of the week. So we'll have a bird that he goes in depth on, more so that he will elaborate on and give more information on, to where you a bird that you'll see around each one of your counties and see if you can spot it. He's been doing that series for a couple months now, I believe, and each video is very well orchestrated and very well put together. You can spread around the word to all young birders ages 9 to 17 who you think may be interested in the club itself. So we try to do some outreach events every now and then to make more people and young birders that are interested in this sort of community type setup with the Young Birders Club interested in the club itself. And you can donate through the Florida Ornithological Society webpage. We're trying to get it set up so that we have our own website and our own, our own setup through the Florida Young Birders Club. But for now, we are sponsored by the Florida Ornithological Society. So all of the information that you can get through donating and furthering and advancing the club's efforts will be through their website. And if you'd like, you can start up a Florida Young Birders Club chapter in your own area of the state. So if there is a county in which there is no effort as far as young birders go, you can always go ahead and start up your own Young Birders chapter. You can always congregate in your areas of the state and in your hotspots that you feel would be beneficial and good for birding. And here's some birding club photos from the outings we've had thus far. So we've had this owl prowl program at Jim's area of the state, brainstorming for next year's outings. I believe Jim works at, I believe it's an elementary school for gifted children. And this was a little thing he set up, presentation to go out and search for owls in the state. We had a scrub jay outing at Lionia Preserve very recently. So we went and looked for scrub jays. We had some very close-up looks at the scrub jays, and it was pretty cool to get looks at them, considering that maybe some of these young birders had never gotten a look at them to begin with. And, you know, the scrub jay is our mascot. So it was pretty cool to get good looks at what would be our namesake and our, you know, what, you know, inspired the club and what the imagery of the club is all about. And the amazing staff from Lionia Preserve has been helping out and advocating for us on social media thus far. So it's very cool to see them collaborating with us since the trip to this preserve. And we're hopefully going to host another outing to the preserve in the future, as we got some really good looks at the birds. And it's just an excellent preserve with an excellent effort from the staff all around. Some of us went into their nature center, which is you know, towards the parking area after the trip was all done. And they have an excellent effort for conservation.
How do I get to Lionia Preserve in Florida?
I'm sorry?
It's in Deltona, which is just a couple towns north of Orlando.
Yes, that's right.
I
believe it's in Seminole County, Florida.
Volusia County.
Volusia County, yes, that's right. Yeah, it was a little farther up than I thought. So we have these birders here that went with us and got some excellent pictures and some good views. And I think I'm about exhausted you guys with my talking. So Charles, if you'd like to take over from here, feel free to go ahead. Or if you'd like me to keep going, just let me know.
All right. As Alex has said, one of our main club goals is to mentor young birders. So this photo, I think, really shows that very well. I think this is from our Lettuce Lake outing over near Tampa. Yes. So definitely, yeah. And so we bring optics for all participants. If they need them, they can borrow some of the club optics if they don't have their own. So you can see that here. Next slide. And this is another example. This is another one of our goals is to form connections between young birders. So here we have two of our participants on the Lettuce Lake outing, forming a bond, you know, sharing their photos. That's definitely, we really value that, and we want to encourage that as much as possible. So more of our Lettuce Lake outing, it looks like. This like shows that birding is for everybody, right? So yeah, and on the right, we have an outing we did in Pasco County to Crossbar Ranch. That was a unique outing. We had both burrowing owl and Florida scrub jay on the same day. And we got like a private tour because it's not a public location. So that was definitely a great experience for all participants. Next slide.
I know you were present on that trip. So if you like me to elaborate a little bit on what's happening here.
Yeah.
Okay. So we went to the Sweetwater Wetlands Park in Gainesville, so Alachua County. We had some UF students, University of Florida students, come out and do the field trip leading and show us around the park because they were more familiar with their neck of the woods, as some of us had never even been here before. So some highlights from this trip, we got the bobolinks, which were passing through very briefly. We managed to catch those while they were still here. Some of us had never seen those before. We had some pretty massive alligators. And as we were going around the loop to the south, I believe, we saw a soaring dark morph of a short-tailed hawk, which at that time was kind of a rare sighting. And, you know, all of us really enjoyed seeing those kinds of birds. Unfortunately, it did get kind of hot towards the end, as there wasn't a ton of shade in the park, but overall it was really, really fun. And some of us even got to enjoy some of the other festivities happening around that time, such as A few of us went to the Florida Museum, which is part of the University of Florida campus, which had some really cool natural history sort of things going on. And some of us took a trip to the bat houses around the UF campus, where we saw the relationship between the red-shouldered hawks and the bats that live there, as well as the native plants that surround the whole park. So that was a really cool experience to have. And I hope that we can organize more events like this in the future, where we have our, like we have our older and more experienced people that have already got their foot in the door, leading around our young birders and showing us all what it's like to navigate their foot of the woods, their neck of the woods, I'm sorry. This is next one. Okay, so this outing, this was one of the first outings we ever did as a Young Birders Club. So we all met here, I believe it was towards the end of January 2021 or 2022, I can't quite remember. But this was a very fun outing. Each of us got a chance to see each one of the birds that inhabits the Orlando Wetlands Park. We had some leaders from UCF come out and lead us all around some of the loops. The weather wasn't exactly the best, but despite that, we still had some very good sightings. I can't recall. Okay, so towards the beginning, we had two rarities. We had a very early overwintering magnolia warbler, which was kind of unheard of for that area of the park at this time. And at the same time, we had a great crested flycatcher, which was also very, very early. So each of us got some good photos. As you can see, some of us has cameras here. And I really like this photo with the well. I just think that's one of my favorite photos that we've gotten out of the Young Birders program to date. It just, something about it is just so charming. And Charles, if you'd like to take back over.
Yes. So this is one of our outings we did this past winter in Plant City to the Lower Green Swamp Preserve. And that was a pretty good outing. We had Eastern towhee. We had lots of other great stuff. We had don't think we had meadowlarks on that one, actually. We had red-shouldered hawks, so great views of that. And then on the right is the Circle B outing that I led back in February. And that was, again, an effective outing. I think we had a goal of seeing over 50 species, and I think we saw 56 in about 2 hours. So definitely a pretty great experience. And then afterwards, some of us went over to a nearby lake called Lake Morton. I don't think we have photos of that one, but we had redhead there. We had teal, lots of wintering scaup, ringneck ducks, and great views too, because it's right along the shore, it's the city park. So great experience all around for that. Next slide. Yes, so sign up information. If you or you know somebody who wants to sign up or might be interested, make sure to head on over to our Facebook page. We have more information, we have links, we have all that sort of stuff there. We also have, I think Alex mentioned this, we have a page on the FOS website. If you do end up signing up or somebody you know ends up signing up, make sure you pay your dues. We have a $10 dues at mandatory, and that goes to support our cause, support our outings. And also make sure that you make sure you fill out all the forms and give us your email. We have a monthly newsletter for all paid and official members. So if you know anybody, send them to Facebook, send them to the FOS website. It's very easy to sign up. Next slide. All right, now it's time for the bird pop quiz. So if you have an answer, you can say it, you can type it in the chat, and then we'll show the answer once we get a couple of responses. here's bird number 1. This is a summer resident, pretty common in neighborhoods, parks, anywhere with trees, really. I usually hear them most of the time. Sometimes I'll see them, but I definitely hear them more often than I see them. Okay, we're getting some people saying great crested flycatcher. Any other guesses?
I think that's right. So
It
this is a great
is?
crested flycatcher, Myiarchus crinitis. It is one of the New World flycatchers that we have here in Florida. Has quite a voice on it for its size. It can be characterized by its, I believe the sound is, it's a, my poor impression, but it has sort of a reap sound that you can hear, sort of a raspy voice to it. That's the first one. Bird number 2.
Oh, that's a good one.
Very good one.
I think we already talked about this one, actually.
I think we might have. We might have already talked about this one. But any ideas of what this one could be possibly? I hear someone saying a cardinal, a summer tanager. And you would be right. This is a summer tanager, Iranga ruba. So the main difference between the cardinal and the summer tanager is to know that the summer tanager has, of course, a different build, a different beak and everything. The beak is quite longer on the summer tanager. Of course, it has the same type of red, but the red is different down the wings. The red on the cardinal is going to be sort of a more browner wash, as in the summer tanager, the color is more even throughout the entire bird. And the cardinal will have a black kind of mask on the face, whereas that's not present in the summer tanager. The primary projection, how long the primary feathers project down the back of the bird, is also going to be a lot longer than the cardinal. So the way that they hold their wings and the way that the wings are set are different on the summer tanager. And overall, I mean, they can share some habitat, but the summer tanager is more of a specialist when it comes to habitat. It's more of a woodland species, whereas a cardinal can sort of adapt to hammock, woodlands, wetlands, anywhere, sort of. So you got to be on the lookout for those specific marks. Let's go to the next bird. Okay, so this is a bird that you may be very familiar with. You may not be in this form, but feel free to type your answers in chat if you know what this bird is. It's very common around here, around all times of year, but you may not know exactly what it is because this is the juvenile form of that bird. Bonus points to anyone that knows what the juvenile form of this bird is called, like the term for the juvenile form. All right, yes, it is a sandhill crane. So the juveniles look very different from the adults. The adults, the juveniles are called colts. So the adults will have an entirely red cap on the head surrounding the eye and the beak, as well as the back of the head. They will be a more grayish brown, sort of muddy color, whereas the sandhill crane that you see pictured is sort of an orange, downy, pale color. They follow their parents along until they're old enough to go off on their own. Sometimes they'll even help raise the next generation, as far as I know. And these birds are they're quite common. And they have a sort of behavior type called precociality, which is when they exhibit mature behaviors sooner than anticipated in a juvenile form of a species. So you have precociality and altriciality, and altriciality is exhibited in songbirds mainly, where they'll sort of be really helpless. They won't open their eyes for a long time. They have to be fed by their parents. And of course, I believe the juveniles of the sandhill crane are fed by the parents from time to time, but they learn how to walk and forage on their own very early in their juvenile forms. So our next bird. Oh yes, this is a sandhill crane. Grus canadensis is the scientific name. So our next bird is one that you're going to see not so much in Orange County, but more so on the coasts in the winter and the early spring. And I believe it's a fall as well. So this is a coastal species. You'll see them on the beach. Sometimes you'll see them inland, but very rarely. That's more of a rare occurrence when they get lost in their vagrancy. So if anyone can guess what this bird is, it's a coastal species. It's quite a large shorebird. Any guesses? So this bird is a marbled godwit. It is a coastal species that you'll see during the winter and the spring. It's a very large and peculiar shorebird, and this long bill is used for probing into the sand for mussels and crustaceans and little things like that. So this one is a little bit trickier. This one's a little bit trickier. This is more Charles area. So if you'd like to explain what this is, go ahead.
Yes. So this is actually a spectrogram. For the unfamiliar, it's a visual representation of a sound in which the y-axis represents frequency and the x-axis represents time, and the hypothetical z-axis, which is represented by the darkness or intensity of the color, is the volume. So this is actually a flight call, and not just any flight call. This is actually a nocturnal flight call that I recorded on my station back in early May. So this species is pretty common during spring and fall migration, not really any other time of the year. So it has a distinct arched quality, modulation throughout the second half of the call. If anybody has any guesses.
I don't think anyone's going to get this one. This is
Well,
pretty
we
complicated.
can open this up to our advanced birders.
Yeah,
So anyone can guess. Anybody?
I couldn't even get this one when you first sent this over to me. You had to tell me.
Oh, we've got a guess for gray-cheeked thrush.
Of
Oh,
course.
unfortunately, I cannot play it.
There is no audio recording, but
I haven't
yeah,
figured out
that's
how
right.
to put that on Zoom.
it's a great cheek
Yes.
thrush. I didn't think anyone would get that one. That's a pretty hard one. Catharus minimus. That's one of the two subspecies of great-cheeked thrush. But the minimus is the main one, I believe. So here's our photography credits for each one of us that took the photos. If anyone has any questions for either Charles or I, feel free to ask what it's like maybe in the day in the life of a young birder, as far as the efforts of the club or us or anything really. Feel free to type in the chat or
And Jim
unmute.
McGinity's here too, the
Oh, yeah.
founder. So
If you have any questions for Jim, the founder, go ahead with that. If you have any questions for us, feel free to type in the chat or unmute. Wait, I don't know if you can unmute.
Great job, inspiring.
they can unmute, yes. We
Yeah,
gotta
you
say-
can unmute and ask what you'd like. Kathy, by the way, can you see the camera thing off to the left of my screen?
I can see your screen.
No, but can you see the like the Zoom camera?
No,
Like, okay, you can't see that? Okay. Any questions?
Yes, the bird with the very long long beak that I forgot the name of it, the warbled, I think, marbled something.
Marbled
don't know.
godwit.
Yes. So like I'm on the East Coast up in New York, and most of the seagulls and stuff, they'll take the clams and they'll smash them down on the rocks. But does that one have an ability to be able to open up the I'm sorry, my words are kind of limited tonight.
No
But
worries. I think I know what you mean, though.
Yeah.
I think I know what you mean. So with that long beak, it's adapted to probing, which is essentially what they do to stick their bill into the sand and sort of dig out anything that's underneath inside the sand. I don't know about the smashing sort of. I know what you mean by that, but the smashing ability with the breaking open the hard-shelled crustaceans and gastropods and stuff. But as far as I know, they're just more of a probing species, so they dig into the sand and dig up what they can. I'd have to look more into that for you.
Thank you.
Of course. Any other questions? Someone in chat.
How about
What is your? Oh, I'm
binoculars?
sorry.
I was just
Go on.
about binoculars. Isn't that essential? And do you have any tips for parents?
Oh, and here's something really good to know for the students. If they join for $10, they get 50% off optics. It's with Vortex, correct, Jim? They're one of the sponsors?
Yes.
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, what better deal is that? But
Yeah,
it's only
50%
for
off.
you. You can't
50%
join
off
it.
with
Yeah.
that membership is a really good deal.
Yes.
We do have pairs that at least the Tampa chapter, I think, or Orange Audubon as well.
We have loners. Yeah, we got.
They
got
they have
nice
Vortex, they're 8x32s. They're very small, so, and they have a nice focus wheel, so they're easy to use. So, that's critical. The younger the birder, you want to get them learning how to use binoculars and seeing the birds well. It makes all the difference.
In Orange
And then-
Audubon, we're able to get through a collaborative grant, some Kawa youth binoculars, and I've been using them for the last 2 months with kids of all ages, and they are fabulous. They're really good.
They're really good.
Mhm.
And if your chapter has any loaner binoculars, you can bring those along on our young birders outings. Like I know Kathy has them just in general for the beginning bird classes and all of our other outings if you need them, but you brought them along on the young birders outings for the kids that don't have them or can't afford them.
Always, yes, that's part of our mission, and that's why we got able to get a grant.
Yeah, so it's really, we're fortunate enough to where we are able to make those readily available. That's one of the things that we're really grateful to have.
Kathy, I've always been wondering, do you go through the process of teaching them how to adjust them for themselves?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so there is a question, and Jim and I both can answer this about for training students to lead.
What's your process for training students to lead trips? I think that's more of a question for Kathy or
Jim. Jim's been doing it longer than I have, so I'll let him answer and then I'll chime in if there's anything different.
We've only had a few of our younger birders lead trips so far, so it's still evolving. So it's mostly just mentoring, having them come with us, and then the one we had at Boyd Hill, I was with them, the two young birders. They were helping me more than leading it themselves. And luckily we had Dave Goodwin was there, and we had 70 people show up and no binoculars. So it was less than ideal, to say the least. But I know Orange Audubon has a more formal process, at least for adult leaders, right, as far as an online training, which is something that would be really cool to do, that we could develop with our older young birders to maybe do a training video that all the chapters could use as they're training young birders to lead walks. But honestly, we're still acquiring members. I mean, we're lucky to get 4 or 5 young birders on an outing in the Tampa area. So, you know, they have a lot of competing activities and interests. So you'll see a kid 1 or 2 times, and then you won't see them for almost a year, and then they'll pop back up. So, you know, you just keep offering them, and we need help from adults around the state to help point interested kids towards the club. And we do have those business cards. If you're with an Audubon chapter, or like Dave Simpson, he's out all the time, you come across, you'll know the kids who are really into birds. They have binoculars, they ask good questions, they already know a lot. And we want to get those business cards in the hands of adults as well, leaders of different Audubon chapter field trips, because, you know, when these kids show up, we want, you know, you to be able to hand them one of these cards, and then they can pursue it from there, which should be awesome. So
Okay.
Yeah, it's very much in the works,
Yeah.
but we're getting there as far as, you know, attendance and outlook.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah. Michelle, you can just send a message to James McGinity. Just, you know how to direct message him with your email, and he can get you those cards. Anyone else that wants to do that, doesn't want to put it out in the general chat. And here at Orange Audubon, we've been fortunate because we had like Alex, and he's shown himself to be a good leader. So we've given him the opportunity to like co-lead along with people and just kind of, you know, be mentored, basically, is what we're doing. And like I said, we did do a training online for adults and older, you know, youth, you know, but I think that's a good idea. Maybe we will have something put together for the younger ones. Oh, and Jim put his email out there for everybody.
Leaders in training.
Yeah. So yeah, those cards are great. And we also have a flyer that we can email to you that you can post places. And that way.
Do we have the rack card like printed out yet? Or
Not yet.
all that? No.
Not yet. But the flyers are good too, because you can post them at nature centers and other places where kids would be.
we decided not.
Space Coast, yeah.
cards.
Okay.
Wait, I think David has a question.
No,
Oh, I didn't know if you had a question.
No, I was just making a note. I was getting ready to send an email to Jim about getting cards for. We've got fairly active groups in both Pelican Island and Indian River County and Space Coast and Brevard County, Space Coast Audubon. So we might be able to generate some interest and maybe have a chapter eventually in this area. So.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank
so,
you.
Yeah. So, but
For sure.
yeah.
Yeah, that means quite a bit.
We do have
Thank
interest
you.
already from Sarasota, and Tallahassee, I know is talking about it, but it's quite a commitment, and you need at least a couple of adults. Thank goodness, you know, I found Kathy and Kate over in St. Augustine, because it's a lot of work to keep it going, you know, and to recruit and that sort of thing. So by having a team, and the one thing these 2 guys didn't say is that we did create an advisory panel or committee or whatever we call it. And so we have at least 1 or 2 of the young birders from each of the chapters represented.
Yeah,
And
I
the whole
did
idea-
mention that briefly, but I don't think you might
We
have caught
meet-
it.
So we meet monthly, and then the idea is, you know, it's their club. So, you know, could we have done a logo in a lot shorter time and some of the other things? Sure, but it needs, this is my opinion, they should be driven by them, because it's we're just facilitating it for them and supporting it, you know, and helping with the infrastructure and that sort of thing. So yeah, it's a work in progress, but it's been pretty successful so far, I think. And,
Yeah.
a lot of interest, J chats. I know the folks at Tall Timbers are dying for us to come up there. So we're looking at doing an outing up there probably in early January. So it's really fun, I think.
It's fun. It's very rewarding. And you'll find you'll have a mix. You'll have some really serious young birders, and then you'll have kids that just want to be outside. So we kind of, that's one reason why we always have multiple leaders too, because we'll be out on a trip and our real serious ones are going to be, you know, like, I remember we were at Mead and we had our more serious ones. They were looking for the warblers, and the kids that were just want to be outside were looking for frogs. So you kind of have to know that you're going to have that mix, and it's okay. As long as you have enough leaders, you can kind of work it that way, and everyone has a good experience.
I mean, sometimes you'll have different dynamics, but you just got to learn to work with it.
Yeah.
And as well as the advisory panel, I just wanted to say as an added note, we put that together to get to get input from the young birders themselves. So we put that together so each member on there is a young birder. I mean, except for Kathy and Jim. So they're not running the whole show, but they are facilitating that for us. So we can give our input and, you know, say what we would want out of a young birders club. So it isn't all just up to the adults there. And it's more like pertaining to the interests of the young birders themselves. Which I think is a really cool thing.
If anyone out there is an Audubon and you'd like to, you can just come to an advisory panel and just kind of test the waters. Let us know. Email Jim and then he'll get you in the loop.
Yeah, we host them on Zoom. So it's
like
free
1 hour.
Yeah.
1 hour once a month. So it's not bad. So yeah, again, Alex and Charles, you both did an outstanding job. We're
Thank
just
you.
really proud of both of you.
Good
And
job.
yeah,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good job.
thank everyone for coming and taking the time. And I know this will just keep growing.
One more slide. Yep. Thank you.
Oh, happy birthday. Yeah. And